Picture this, the world's friendliest border, once a symbol of easygoing partnership. Canadians and Americans shared everything: hockey, actors, even weather complaints. But as of July 2025, that relationship feels like a distant memory. A trade war has turned neighborly visits into tense standoffs. This isn't just about tariffs on aluminum or dairy, it's personal now. Everyday life is different. That California wine, now a political statement, a trip to Disney World, suddenly controversial. Canadians see US price tags and feel the weight of tariffs and tension. The easy back and forth is gone, replaced by caution and a surge of national pride. People are making conscious choices, supporting Canadian products, drawing a line at the checkout. This is no longer just a government dispute, it's a daily reality for millions. We'll explore how this all started, who's leading the charge, and what it means for ordinary people on both sides. From Saskatchewan farmers to Maine shop owners, everyone's feeling the chill. So buckle up. The Canada-US relationship just got complicated, and it's a story that touches us all. How did two best friends end up in a trade war? It started after the 2024 US election. President Trump announced a sweeping 25% tariff on all Canadian and Mexican imports, citing border security. For Canadians, it felt like a betrayal. Canada hit back fast, slapping retaliatory tariffs on $30 billion of US goods. Suddenly, products that crossed the border freely were caught in the crossfire. Then in March, Mark Carney became Canada's Prime Minister, calling the dispute the greatest crisis of our lifetimes. Both leaders dug in. Trump's offhand suggestion that Canada become the 51st state only fueled Canadian resentment. By June, the US doubled tariffs on steel and aluminum to 50%. The battle lines were drawn. This was no longer just about trade, but about national respect and survival. When governments clash, it's the people who act first. In Canada, the weapon of choice? The shopping list. A massive Buy Canadian movement swept the nation. By May, 76% of Canadians were boycotting American products. 86% were seeking out Canadian alternatives. Grocery stores swapped US brands for local ones. California wine sits untouched, while Niagara bottles fly off the shelves. Retailers use maple leaf signs to guide shoppers to domestic goods. Some, like Newfoundland's liquor stores, pulled US alcohol entirely. This isn't just about price, it's about principle. From cheese to cars, Canadians are voting with their wallets, supporting their own and sending a clear message. Friendship can't be taken for granted. It's not just American goods getting the cold shoulder, so are American destinations. The annual Canadian migration to Florida and Arizona, a thing of the past. In 2025, border crossings dropped sharply. Canadian tourists once spent $26.6 billion in the US. Now, that flow has slowed to a trickle. Car trips to the US fell 23% in February. Air travel dropped too. Only 10% of Canadians plan to visit the US this summer, down from 23% last year. Instead, 77% are vacationing at home. New US travel rules, like fingerprinting for longer stays, add to the hassle. With official travel advisories and a chilly political climate, Canadians are choosing the Rockies over Colorado and the Bay of Fundy over Florida. This trade war isn't just headlines, it's hitting real people and businesses. Canada's steel and aluminum industries face existential threats with tens of thousands of jobs at risk. A prolonged dispute could shrink Canada's economy by 3%, but the pain goes both ways. US border towns like Buffalo and Bellingham have seen sales plummet as Canadians stay home. A 10% drop in Canadian tourism could cost the US $2.1 billion and 14,000 jobs. Major companies like GM face billions in extra costs, threatening jobs on both sides. The once seamless $2.5 billion daily trade flow is now choked, disrupting lives and livelihoods everywhere. At the heart of this conflict are two leaders with starkly different styles. President Trump uses tariffs as blunt instruments, framing the dispute as national security. His provocative rhetoric, like the 51st state comment, galvanized Canadian opposition. The White House threatens even more tariffs if demands aren't met. On the other side, Prime Minister Carney, a calm but determined former central banker, frames US actions as a betrayal. He's united Canadians, responding with targeted retaliation and careful negotiation. When the US suspended trade talks over Canada's digital tax, Carney paused the tax to keep talks alive, firm but flexible. It's a standoff, populist fire versus strategic resolve with the continent's economic future at stake. The numbers tell the story of a fractured relationship. 76% of Canadians are boycotting US products. 86% are seeking Canadian alternatives. Retailers are scrambling to relabel shelves and rethink supply chains. Tourism has cratered. Canadians spent $26.6 billion in the US in 2023, but car trips dropped 23% in February 2025. Only 10% plan US vacations this year, down from 23%. That's millions of changed plans and billions lost for American businesses. Canada faces the loss of 23,000 steel jobs and 9,500 aluminum jobs. The US could lose $2.1 billion and 14,000 jobs from just a 10% drop in Canadian tourism. And every day, $2.5 billion in cross-border trade is disrupted, costing both sides dearly. Even in crisis, some find opportunity. The Buy Canadian movement is fueling a boom for local producers, farmers, brewers, and manufacturers. Co-packing facilities are thriving as companies shift production north to avoid tariffs. Canadian tourism is booming, with billions redirected from US destinations to Banff, PEI, and the Okanagan. Economists predict up to $8.8 billion could flow into Canada's tourism sector. Companies are innovating, strengthening supply chains, and focusing on self-sufficiency. The trade war has sparked a renaissance of domestic pride and unexpected growth. As 2025 unfolds, the future of Canada-US relations is uncertain. The trade war has driven a wedge between close allies but also ignited Canadian unity. Negotiations are fragile. Even if a deal is struck, trust is damaged. Consumers may not return to old habits overnight. Canada is rethinking its reliance on the US, seeking new markets in Europe and Asia. This crisis could make Canada's economy more resilient and globally minded. The world's friendliest border became a battleground, proof that economic ties don't guarantee harmony. The relationship will be more cautious, more deliberate, and perhaps a little more distant. The North American family portrait has changed forever.